Great, I'm gonna start right now. So the subject matter jurisdiction. We saw before the general jurisdiction and specific jurisdiction about the person,
Mhm.
and this is about the matter, meaning basically the law. Basically the law.
Mhm.
The difference between the general jurisdiction about the person and the specific about the location with people in the same state is that is it's waivable. So the normal jurisdiction you can just said I don't need to be in this venue. I can be. I don't want to file a lawsuit in Fort Worth. I can be in Dallas. If
Mhm.
if the defendant agrees, it's fine. You can. But in federal, you don't have this liberty because subject matter jurisdiction is not waivable. It's not consented. It's not going to be transferred. So it's very limited. Basically, the federal courts they are like how can I say they are not as numerous as the state courts, and
Mhm.
of course state courts are closer to the public, to the voters. So state courts normally the judges are elected, and federal courts the judges are appointed by the president
Mhm.
and need to go to the senate. This is a whole procedure. But the judges for federal court they are for life. It's not like the state court that every 3 years they have an election or something. No, that's for life. And
Mhm.
for this situation, they are not influenced by any kind of decision because sometimes a judge may not decide some case because he may be afraid because there's an election year.
Mhm.
But the federal court they don't have this problem, but also it's very limited. So the subject of the cases are very limited. The first one is a federal question, meaning it's based on the federal law or the constitutions or international contracts, something related to the interest of the union as one. So the treaties, the law, federal law, constitution, like I said, employment law, patent law, these are federal questions. So if there's a federal question that's based on a federal law, it's I cannot file a lawsuit in Dallas District Court about a federal law. I need to be in a federal district court. So that's the first thing is a federal question. And there's this well plead complaint rule. It's based on this railroad. Because what happens is this case, a guy was injured in a train, and the settlement that he made with the train company was like, you never go pay train tickets again in your life. So the guy basically have the whole life to ride trains for free. This one is just the 80s, so trains was a big
Mhm.
thing at that moment. You wish you have
Yeah.
this transportation for free. However, there's a federal law that said, look, for now on it's forbidden to give tickets for free to avoid corruption. So the train company just stopped validate the ticket for the guy. And the
Mhm.
guy filed a suit against the company. Look, we have an agreement and you are breached the agreement because you don't pay my tickets. But well, they don't pay the tickets because the law forbids, and because the law is a federal law, the case went to a federal court. And in this case, as the federal law who create a breach on the previous contract was related to a federal question, this federal question was bring to the federal court, so they cannot file the lawsuit in the state court. The first case that the guy won against the company, against the train company, was in a state court.
Mhm.
However, the second lawsuit, because of the breach, was in the federal court because the federal question was inside the federal law. That's why it happens is this way. So the federal law is an essential element for the claim to be arise, and that's why the cause of action needs to be in a federal court, not in a state court. This is 28 USCC section 130.31. 130.31 is the federal question, meaning if there's any federal law, treaty, or constitution, it's going to be this section 1331, and the diversity is 1332, but we're going to get there soon. So there's two paths for the federal question. The first one is the creation tests. The creation test basically is about this American well works versus Loine Bauer coal. This American well, this company well, they create wells, water wells, so you can drink water. So what happens is this company was saying that the other company was with bad services. They are bad company. Their wells were not good enough. They don't have, the pump water was not enough to create, etc. And they filed a lawsuit in a federal court, questioned this because they said the defamation that they are suffering was against of the patent law. But the point is, it was a defamation, not a breach of patent law. And because it was a defamation, it's a state law. It's not a federal question. For this case was dismissed and remanded to the state court because defamation as liable is a state issue. So the federal state doesn't care. The United States doesn't care about your defamation shit. The United States care about patent law be broken because it's a national issue. As this was defamation about the patent itself, but not the breach of duty for the patent, that was taken out of the federal court because it was not about the law, it was about the defamation. So if the lawsuit arises under the law that creates the cause of action, it will be a federal question. But if the lawsuit arises as a state law, there's no federal question, so it needs to be filed a lawsuit in the state. Okay. And the second path is about this other Grebus Sosmeros versus Dury. What happens is the IRS, they want to receive their taxes, and they took the property for this company. And the question was, oh, but you took my house, so my house is in the States, so I'm gonna be here. Yeah, but the case comes from the non-payment of the federal tax. So if you don't pay federal tax, there's an element in this case that's not related to your house. Okay, you file a lawsuit because you are upset because you are losing your house. That's understandable. But the point of controversy of this case is not about the house itself, but about the taxes that wasn't paid to federal taxes, and because of this ingredient, it must be on the federal court. It's not on the state court. So in order for their jurisdiction, they need to arise from that. That's the second path. The element, the ingredient of the case needs to be, if it is not from the state law, it's for the federal law itself, the element must come from a federal law, arises from a federal law. So there's four elements in the second path. The first is necessary raid questions, meaning the question that you're saying, look, you took my house, but you took my house because unpaid taxes. So I'm raising this question. This is a state law or federal law, okay? There's disputed. Yes, there is, because the guy does not want to lose their shit. So there's the federal issue is substantial to the federal system. Yes, federal taxes are very interesting to the United States. They like, they really enjoy. And the balance does not disrupt the state federal system. Well, it does not, because it interests only to the federal. It's not going to change anything. But other thing about this is the Gunn versus Minton, this other case. An attorney filed a suit for a patent law, and he lost. Okay, he lost the lawsuit. And this Gunn filed a lawsuit against Minton in a federal law because, well, the attorney lost a lawsuit in a patent law. How the fuck ever? The lawsuit that the Gunn went against Minton was not about patent law, but about malpractice of law. So it's professional responsibility of the attorney. If it's professional responsibility of the attorney, it's related to a state matter. It's not a federal matter. the fact that he lost the case in a federal law does not arise or does not create federal jurisdiction in order to file a lawsuit in a federal court, because malpractice is a state issue. If a state issue, must be in a state court or district, county, or district court or county clerk of law, but not federal, because malpractice is a state issue. So 1332, diversity. Everybody loves diversity but left. What happens is there's two requirements in order to have diversity. First, the sum of the value must be more than 75,000. Meaning, must be 75,000? No, must be 75,001 cent. But must be more than 75,000, okay? And the second issue is about the element, the person itself. Must be A, citizens of different states, like the Risty case. The driver is from New York and Risty for Texas. That's the case. Second, lawful permanent resident. If the guy is from different states, but one is a permanent resident, the place of residency of this person means that state is gonna be accepted as a place of residence to diversity situation. The third, subjects of foreign state are additional parts. So if the part that's as added to the claim is subject to a foreign state, like if we have two cases here, you file a lawsuit against me, but I said, oh, it's not only me, there's Fernando for Oklahoma. So when I bring them, now we have a diversity. Now it's gonna be removed from here to the federal court, okay? And if the party is a foreign state, so if you are here in Texas filing a lawsuit against Oklahoma, you only can file this lawsuit on the federal court. You can't file a lawsuit against a state in another state, because there's be some bias, some prejudice, so you can't. So in order for have diversity, you need to have these two elements. But there's something that differs, like the diversity must be complete, meaning if there's only two parties and one is from Texas, other is for Oklahoma, there's complete diversity. But if there's three parties, one is from Texas, the defendants for Texas, and the second defendant is for Oklahoma, we don't have complete diversity, but because we have two parties that are from the same state, so the case will remain in Texas. Don't need to go to the federal court, okay? So this case, Owen versus Kroger, what happens is Miss Kroger filed a lawsuit against a company, Owen, from another state. However, when Owen called a counterclaim against a third party to answer as well, this third party was a person who was from the same state as Kroger. So when this third party was added to the claim, destroyed diversity. So the question was, well, the plaintiff did not add the party. Can the defendant add a counterparty, and when they are added, destroy the diversity? Well, in this case, yes, because as we need complete diversity in the case of the diversity for federal jurisdiction, when somebody is added, the diversity is destroyed, you need to remand the case to state's court. You cannot finish the case in a federal court. Okay. About amounting controversy, this was a Bucksar vs. Mayo. This is an interesting case. There's an accident, different states, plaintiff and defendant in different states. There's diversity for the situation, but the amount was about, she has about 18,000 in meds, 18. But she put a lot of stuff, pain and suffer, mental anguish, a lot of fluffy stuff, and that now is 100. But the defendant said, no, you don't prove this amount. This amount is just speculations, And but the defendant, the plaintiff, did to save his divorce situation. He got some case law of similar situations, injuries, and most of the decisions, most of the jury's awards are way over 75. And because of was reasonable for her injuries to be awarded by a jury an amount that's above 75,000, she could stand on federal situation in this case. So you don't need exactly to have the 75, but you need to have evidence enough that your case value more than 75,000. Okay, you can use as evidence just paying summary for other cases. About jurisdiction, the citizenship is determined by the day of filing. This Rodriguez against Senor Frogs. Both are from what's the island? Puerto Rico. Both
Puerto
are
Rico.
both are for Puerto Rico, but Miss Rodriguez, she moved to California in the middle of her treatment, and she filed a lawsuit in a federal court when she was in California. But they said, look, the accident was in Puerto Rico. Everybody was in Puerto Rico. She cannot file a lawsuit now that she's in California. But the judge in this case said, no, the timing of the filing is what implies citizenship. Because when she moved to California, she moved there, she opened a bank account, she rent a house, she got a job there. She has a lot of evidence that she wants to remain in California. She is moving from the previous home. So this intent of changing the domicile is what proves that she has enough intent to live there to create this the diversity itself. So the physical presence and the intent to remain indefinitely are the domicile tests in order to guarantee citizenship for the person in that state. An award, because it's so easy for me to go to Oklahoma because it's like the 100 miles from here, and I'm living there now. I'm gonna file a lawsuit against you, so go to federal. It's easy. But if I don't have evidence that prove that I moved there with the intent to be there, and I have other elements that prove that I want to be there indefinitely, like I really am moving, it's not a game, you know. If you prove that a game, you're gonna bring to state court again. If you can prove, you're gonna to the federal. And for corporations, we spoke about this before, is the two places. The PPOA, they call the nerve centers test, is the incorporation, meaning the place where the paperwork, and the principal place of business, or where the headquarters, high-level officers live there. So for citizenship for corporations, this is important. Okay, this is not related to be served. Be served is another situation. The fact of the truck driver was driving in Texas put him as able.
He gave consent.
Exactly, and the company gave consent by the Secretary of State. That's why we serve the Secretary of State. If the company does not have registered agent here, but she's using our roads, she's giving consent to us to serve the Secretary of State, and the Secretary of State send a letter to them. So if they use our structure, they are consented to be sued there. It's two different things. First is the driver, second is the company. If the company, by a registered agent, but if there's no registered agent, by the Secretary of State, that's going to send a letter to the address, whatever they live. And of course, federal question, you cannot waive. Like I said, there's no way you can waive federal question. It's just unwaivable. But diversity, they have 30 days in order to... Oh yeah, I put this stuff. They have 30 days in order to remove. Okay? So after serve again, serve somebody in a diversity situation for different states, if 30 days after we receive the letter, the citation from the server, and they did not file removal for federal costs, they just cannot do anything. It's going to be state now. So, but if it is federal question, they can do whatever they want, even after we finish the case. Let's say,
you said that last time, yeah.
Yeah, let's say it was a federal question, and we win motion for summary judgment, partial default. I'm sorry, we win a partial default judgment against the company. But it's a federal question. They're gonna default. They're gonna vacate the judgment. It's gonna start again over in a federal, because there's the court does not have power to rule over federal law related to subject matter jurisdiction. So that's what happened. And that's it. That's subject matter jurisdiction. Now you know about the general jurisdiction, specific jurisdiction, and federal matter jurisdiction. How you feel? You have understood? I talk some shit. Help me.
No, no, you did. It's really helping me. Like it's helping me just in general. Like I'm understanding what I'm writing now because I'm writing the petition and I'm writing, oh, if venue is proper here because this and this and this. But now I understand why. Like I knew what I had to do, but now I'm understanding why it is the way it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm gonna try to bring more examples because we have other chapters, but for now this is the subject matter. It's not that hard, But the one that's hard is what's the name?